Denver. This is Fox 31 News at 6.
The Denver police have had enough with the protesters here. Again, they have tear gas, and I need to get out of this area because they're going to start shooting the rubber bullets at this area. Matt, go to the right here. Get out of that line of fire. Get out of their line of fire in case they shoot. Oh, Jeremy, I'm not sure if you could just hear that. Very loud, it sounded like potential device that Denver police have used. We see some tear gas going off there. And hang on, look out, Matt, that guy, he has his gun out. He has his gun out firing the pepper balls. We got to get out of his way to make sure. Come back around this way. Matt, come back around this way. We need to get out of their line of fire. Obviously, police are firing those pepper balls. They're trying to get people out of this area, back into the park.
Terrifying moments. Our reporters caught up in the middle of it. Property destroyed, roads shut down, and protests continue, demanding justice for George Floyd. Those protests turned violent here in Denver, and more protests are expected today.
And we saw a large-scale protest again Thursday over the killing of George Floyd and others. Crowds numbering in the thousands set fire to a police station in Minneapolis, which had been evacuated. In nearby St. Paul, protesters and police faced off with tear gas. More than 170 businesses were damaged or looted, according to police, and the Minnesota National Guard was mobilized to both cities. Protesters took to the streets here in Denver as well. But let's take a live look this morning at Minneapolis, where you still see police on the streets outfitted in that riot gear. We're going to have a live report from the streets of Minneapolis coming up in just about 15 minutes from now. Thanks for joining us here on the Fox 31 Morning News on this Friday morning. I'm Drew Engelbart in for Kirk Yonke today.
I'm Megan O'Halloran. A whole lot going on in a pretty heavy news day. We're going to get to all of the breaking news headlines for you here in just a moment. But first, let's get a check at your weather and your traffic heading into the weekend. We have Sam watching the morning drive. But Brooks, we'll start with you first.
We've got a mild start to the day, but a warm afternoon, feeling like summertime. We're talking about mid and upper 80s, a far cry from yesterday's 70s, and a 20% chance for a storm. There's a look at that sunrise, the Backus and Checker Skycam network, getting ready for a hot day. 55 at DIA, a southwest wind, and this is just the start of it. There is no change in the forecast for the next week. It's going to be what you see is what you get. Mid 80s with a chance for thunderstorms. Tomorrow, the storm chance a little bit higher for our Saturday afternoon. Right now, skies are clear, and it's going to be one of those forecasts where in the mornings we have that sunshine, the pleasant conditions, but once that high temperature reaches the 80s, well, the clouds start bubbling up and storms form. 86 today at 2 o'clock, a chance for rain at just 20%. We're going to cool down to 80 by 7, so it'll be a pleasant evening. Coming up in Colorado's most accurate forecast, we've got a force at play, which is more typical for the middle and late part of the summer. That's going to enhance our storm chances and the character of said storms. That's coming up.
All right, this CDOT camera, it always brings a smile to my face when you see the foothills off there in the distance. This is C470 near Platte Canyon. Of course, you can see the cones that are in the area, just ongoing construction, but no delays, no lanes that are blocked off right now on C470. No accidents, even up and down I-25 as far north as Loveland and Fort Collins, or even through the Castle Rock area. Drew and Megan.
All right, Sam, thanks for keeping us posted. Protests taking place in Denver and across the country, even this morning after the death of an unarmed black man at the hands of a Minneapolis police officer. And we are seeing some of those protests play out right here in the Denver area. Fox 31's Lisa D'Souza joining us live at 6th and Lincoln, where a Starbucks was damaged overnight. And Lisa, is that store actually scheduled to reopen again today?
At this point, employees are waiting in front of the store. They said they've been told not to go inside. It was supposed to open at 6 o'clock, but of course, that's not going to be happening right now. You can see this window completely smashed in here. The front door is too. We'll show you that here momentarily. But it's kind of bizarre to see right next to a sign here encouraging people in the wake of this pandemic that we're also going through. And looking at the ground, you can see there is smashed glass really all over the sidewalk. Certainly a sight to see here. The front door also smashed in as well. Meanwhile, in Minneapolis, we're looking at some unreal images of the city just on fire. More than 500 members of the Minnesota National Guard now deployed at banks, grocery stores, pharmacies. Take a look. You can see the 3rd police precinct in the city here in flames near where Floyd died in police custody. Protesters pushing over a fence to get to it. Others throwing fireworks towards the building. Now that police precinct evacuated as the city was also warning protesters to leave the area, citing unconfirmed reports of explosive materials inside. You can see here, take a look, another partially collapsed building up in flames there as police and protesters clashed in the streets overnight. Now here's a look in Denver here at the front of this Starbucks. Again, you can see where someone tried to smash it in, and then there are 2 rocks left behind, apparently what they used to try and break this front door in. Again, at this point, this Starbucks will not be reopening on time. Employees say they're not allowed to go in. They're waiting on word for what to do next. For now, we're live in Denver. Lisa D'Souza, Fox 31.
Yeah, certainly a developing story will continue to follow throughout the morning. Thanks for the update there, Lisa.
6:04 right now, and looting is taking place across downtown Denver. It happened last night and into the early morning hours.
Yeah, there were storefronts damaged on the 16th Street Mall, several other areas as well here in Denver. Dan DeRue joins us live at one of many of the stores that were damaged. And Dan, it's a sad sight to see, isn't it?
Hey, Drew. Hey, Megan. Good morning. Yeah, take a look at this. This is what it looks like now. Glass strewn all over the sidewalk as a result of last night. Here's some video. Take a look at this video. We are at Howard Lorton Furniture and Design, 12th and Lincoln, where last night, for sure, vandals. We don't know if this place has been looted. The glass here has been smashed. It's been since boarded up. Huge panes of glass that were broken by vandals. Cody's going to take a peek inside. I'm not sure if we're still in video, but you can see, doesn't appear that anything was stolen. There's a rock on the floor there. Looks like it might have been used to smash some of the glass. We don't know if anything's been stolen, but we do know it was definitely vandalized, and it was definitely most likely part of the protests throughout the country, the looting. Police arrived here roughly about 1:30 last night, or I should say this morning, and we don't know if anybody was actually inside, like employees or anybody. Not likely, but we don't know if anybody was inside when this happened. But when we know more, we will tell you. And as you can see, still not cleaned up yet. What a mess.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what the business owners and employees, how they react.
A lot to deal with this morning,
to that this morning. Absolutely. Thanks for the update there, Dan. Well, an investigation is underway after a deadly officer-involved shooting near the tech center. The Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office's deputies were investigating criminal activity just east of I-25 and south of Arapahoe Road about 3:45 yesterday afternoon. There was crime scene tape near a parking lot near a Days Inn. No deputies were injured. The suspect was pronounced dead at the scene. And a homicide investigation also underway in Denver. Police say a man was apparently stabbed during an altercation last night in the 1500 block of South Broadway. Another man is in custody, but anyone who witnessed this incident is asked to contact our partners over at Metro Denver Crime Stoppers.
A cold case dating back more than 40 years in Boulder County has been solved. Deputies say they now know who killed this woman, Betty Lee Jones, back in 1970. She was found strangled and shot near an embankment off of Highway 128 near the Boulder and Jefferson County line. Well, after years of investigating, they've determined this man, Paul L. Martin, is likely responsible. The case was reopened back in 2019 when the suspect's DNA from the scene was submitted to a private crime lab for further evaluation. Now, Paul Leroy Martin has passed away, but upon further evaluation, the court allowed investigators to exhume his body years after he died. Investigators linked him to the crime using results from the DNA tests. They say if he was alive today, he would be arrested and charged with murder.
And developing right now out of Jefferson County, deputies say they're looking for a police impersonator who is making contact with bicyclists at Deer Creek Canyon, Chatfield State Park, and Waterton Canyon. He's been seen driving the Dodge Caravan that you see on your screen there. They say the suspect is wearing a shirt with the word sheriff on the sleeves, along with the tan-colored tactical vest. If you see him, contact the Jefferson County tip line.
Meantime, Amtrak testing a new high-speed train that will be put into service within the next year. So take a look at this video. They actually posted this on their website. The company using tracks built by the Transportation Technology Center, which simulates similar situations that the train will experience when it's put into service. Amtrak says that this new model will go into service in 2021 on their Northeast Corridor route. And out at DIA, the airport announcing on Twitter that they have 2 new vending machines where you can buy face masks and disinfecting wipes. Both are located inside the terminal. They are reminding you to help keep our community safe by always wearing a face mask while you're out at the airport.
All right, 6:09 on this Friday morning. Temperature dropped 2 degrees, now down to 55 degrees, but it's going to be a nice day out there, Brooks.
It sure will. Yeah, the bright sunshine, Drew, is going to warm us up. We're going to be in the mid-80s today. It's going to be noticeably warmer than yesterday's high of 74, and the sign of a summer pattern that's going to set up here for at least the next 2 weeks. Now, we're looking at 55 at DIA, 54 in Denver, a southwest wind about 6. That's a warm wind direction. In the mountains, the snow is getting patchier, as would be expected, but there's still a little bit of snow to ski in right on at places like A Basin. What am I saying here? 49 in Lyman. There we go. 55 in Denver, 39 at Dillon, and 62 at Grand Junction. We're going to warm up today into the mid-90s across the western slope. So this is a legitimately warm air mass, and we're going to sample that throughout the next several days. 86 in Denver, 94 today in Lamar. Pinpointing that high today from where we broadcast here in Denver along the Front Range of 86 degrees at 2 o'clock. Now, this afternoon, there is a 20% chance for a thunder shower, but it's just really a preview of what may develop later on this week. And in fact, we've got a large-scale weather pattern shift, which is going to lend to a better chance for storms, and storms which may have a little bit more punch than otherwise. I'll show you what that's all about coming up.
All right, thanks for breaking that down for us, Brooks, and we'll check back in. A fourth day of unrest. We're live in Minneapolis with more on the outrage and the damage left behind.
This is Fox 31 News.
6:13 on this Friday, and we are following breaking news. A CNN crew arrested this morning in Minneapolis, where violent protests continue over the death of George Floyd while in police custody. The crew arrested on live TV. You're seeing the video here, including correspondent Omar Jimenez. We've had him on our show here several times. Police said they were arrested because they were told to move and didn't. CNN President Jeff Zucker spoke to Minnesota's governor, who apologized for the arrests, and the crew has already been released. Well, protests continue for a fourth day in Minneapolis over the death of George Floyd.
The outrage spreading across the country, including protests erupting here in Denver. Let's go out live to Nadia Romero, joining us live from Minneapolis, where all of this chaos started. Have things improved? Have things gotten a little safer out there this morning?
You know, it's hard to tell, Megan. When you look around, you see more of a police presence, but it's hard to tell. Last night, it was pitch black outside. The street lights were out. The parking lots were, the lights were out as well. There was a lot of rioting and looting that was happening. Now in the daylight, you can see the damage that was done. Behind me, you can see a building is still burning. Really, the entire block here is still burning. You can see the big black thick smoke coming up from the top of the building. The fire department has been working on this for a couple of hours on this block. We're just 2 blocks away from the 3rd precinct. The state patrol is out. The National Guard is out. There's more police presence, but that may be agitating some of the protesters who spent a good bit of the morning yelling at this line of officers behind me.
I wanted to ask you about the protesters out there this morning. We've seen the video from last night with what looked like thousands of protesters on the street there in Minneapolis. We see the police behind you. As far as protesters, how many are we talking about this morning? Has it cleared out just a bit?
Well, at the height of it yesterday, I think we had a count of about 4,000 people, but that included community members, church leaders, families who came out who were focused on George Floyd and talking about racial injustice and police interactions with black people, unarmed black people who end up being killed in those interactions. Then it turned into a different element overnight. It's so hard to tell how many people are out here because everyone's moving, everyone's wearing masks. Sometimes you didn't know who someone was until they got right up in your face because it was so dark outside. It's a different scene covering this story than any other riot or protest that I've covered over the past decade or so, just because of COVID-19 and the mask that everyone is wearing. So now in the daylight, you can see who's who, and that makes me at least feel a little bit safer. But there's still plenty of people out today, but we are seeing the National Guard for the first time here in Minneapolis.
Well, those protests turning deadly at one point. We know a looter and a pawn shop owner got into some sort of argument that ended in deadly gunfire. Have you seen any more instances like that? Have they been able to get the gunfire under control?
You know, and that's part of the chaos too, is you can't tell sometimes what's gunfire, what's flashbangs, and what's fireworks. All of that happens all at once. It's hard to distinguish which is which, but you run from it all, right? And you figure it out later. We also heard of an incident between a liquor store owner who was telling the crowd, I just took out a second mortgage and you guys are doing this to me. They went in, looted, ran out with all of the liquor that was in the liquor store right across the street from the 3rd Precinct, and then set the building on fire.
Nadia Romero live for us on the streets of Minneapolis. Nadia, we appreciate the update this morning. Stay safe, you and your crew out there on the streets.
Violence is hard to watch. 6:17 right now. If you're just waking up with us, we want to get your Friday planned out heading into the weekend. And looks like we've got a chance of storms, it appears, every day this week.
You've got it. It is going to be a summertime pattern this weekend. 86 today, 85 tomorrow, a 20% chance today, a 40% chance tomorrow. Keep an eye to the sky. It's not going to be raining all day. These are just those afternoon storm chances. Always possible during the summertime, it seems like, and that's what we're going to be seeing this afternoon on this late spring day in late May. With clear skies right now, it is 55 at DIA, 54 in Denver, a southwest wind about 6, 53 at Fort Collins right now, 35 in Leadville. It is 55 degrees in Sterling. So it is Friday, and a lot of us thinking about some grilling this afternoon. It'll be 82 at 1, 86 by 4, and 80 by 7 o'clock. Just watch out for a 20% chance for a couple of thunder showers developing this afternoon, especially in the foothills, high country, and along the Palmer Divide. But temperatures over the next 10 days way above normal, averaging about 10 to 15 degrees above normal, mid and upper 80s, close to 90 by the end of next week. So summer-like weather today, stormier this weekend, and a hot, stormy week next week. Great time to have that free pinpoint weather app. High pressure moving in from the west, warming us up and transporting moisture into our local atmosphere, resulting in a possibility that some of those afternoon storms developing with all this out-of-season heat will be a little bit juicier than normal, resulting in heavier rain, torrential rain potential than otherwise. And this pattern will be hanging tough for about the next week ahead. And so today, Futurecast, a chance for a couple of afternoon showers on the Palmer Divide, maybe storms. And once we get into the evening commute, a possibility of a brief downpour for Denver, but most of the action holding off until the day tomorrow. Now, tomorrow on the Space Coast of Florida, Cape Canaveral, they're going to try and launch that rocket, the first U.S.-based launch to the ISS since the shuttle program aboard the SpaceX Dragon. And that'll happen local time in Florida about 3:33 p.m., which is 1:33 our time here in Denver, if you want to watch it live on NASA TV. The launch pad located here and the trajectory this way. So conditions look to be better this time, less stormy, a better chance for a go launch. That said, launching anything during the afternoon in Florida this time of year is a risk for thunderstorms, but I'm a little more optimistic about it at this point, crossing fingers that they have a safe flight there. But if it gets canceled, they'll try again. Okay, let's pinpoint the weather where you live this afternoon. 88 in Greeley, 86 Fort Collins, 85 at Castle Rock, 70s for Conifer. It'll be 90 in Eads, 94 Lamar, 86 in Ray and in Burlington. Hot weather in the Eastern Plains, a chance for a stray storm. And so watch 77 today. Fairplay 68. Once you get down toward the west, like Lake City, about 73. And then look at this really warm weather up along the western slope. 91 Rifle, 94 Grand Junction, 91 in Bedrock, 83 degrees in Durango. And we'll see temps about 91 in Rangeley to 80 in Kremling, 75 today in Fraser. The forecast over the next 7 days looking just like summertime with mid to upper 80s and an afternoon storm chance, some days stormier than others. Saturday looks to be the stormiest of the weekend days, and the next week just an afternoon isolated thunderstorm threat. But with that pattern in place, any storms that form, guys, could have locally torrential rain. Much needed rain, but you know that could have impacts in its own right. Of course, you don't want to get too much rain too fast.
True. Could mess with the planes every day this week, but we do certainly need the rain. Thank you, Brooks. Colorado initial unemployment claims dropping for the 6th straight week. How much the state has paid out all since March.
And this is certainly a change of pace. We have good news for airlines this morning.
Hi, it's Kiefer. Weeknights at 7, catch the KBCO Studio C Couch Concert from artists like Dave Matthews, Nathaniel Rateliff, and more. Exclusively from 97.3 KBCO.
Climbing up on Salisbury Hill.
This is Fox 31 News.
6:24 on your Friday morning. Colorado paying out another $95 million in regular unemployment benefits last week. It's the second highest weekly state payout on record. Wallet Hub says Colorado ranked 25th for impact of jobless claims last week. In total, the state has paid out $617 million in regular unemployment benefits since March 29th. Now, during the height of the Great Recession, the state paid out an average of $19 million in regular benefits. And UPS is adding a surcharge as it tries to keep up with the onslaught of package delivery. UPS typically imposes extra fees on merchants during the busy Christmas holiday shopping season. But for the first time in the e-commerce era, it will add such surcharges starting May 31st. The fees would apply to Amazon, Target, and Best Buy.
Impulse purchases such as gum, mints, and snack bars tossed into a shopping basket are falling as more people get groceries delivered or pick them up curbside. That makes sense. U.S. sales of mints are down 30% year on year at stores tracked by market researcher Nielsen in the 11 weeks ending on May 16th, while sales of gum are down 28%. Meanwhile, Southwest Airlines adds 11 new routes and plans to resume a full schedule by year's end. It is adding seats on flights to Las Vegas, Denver, Nashville, and Phoenix. Denver-based Frontier is also adding flights this year. A lot of new reaction this morning after violent protests in Denver yesterday into last night into this morning.
Getting reaction this morning, what the governor, the mayor, and Denver's police chief are all saying about the local protests and outrage.
Well, for all intents and purposes, a summertime pattern is here, and it's going to be here for the next couple of weeks. 61 by 8 o'clock, warming up to 71 by 10, and pinpointing a high today of 86 degrees. It even comes complete with thunderstorm chances. I'll show you that coming up.
Live from Denver, this is Fox 31 News at 6:30.
Oh, I'm not sure if you could just hear that very loud, it sounded like potential device that Denver police have used.
Chaos captured on camera as protesters shut down Denver streets over the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis, and more protests expected today.
And unrest continues in Minneapolis over the death of George Floyd, the unarmed black man who died at the hands of Minneapolis police officers. Now, we saw more fires and building collapses overnight. More than 500 National Guard soldiers have arrived in the Twin Cities as first responders are simply overwhelmed. 6:30 on your Friday. Thanks for starting your morning out with us here at Fox 31. A busy news day, a lot to get to. I'm Megan O'Halloran.
And I'm Drew Engelbart in for Kirk Yonke this morning. We have Sam Boyd keeping an eye on the roadways this morning, making sure you get to work on time. But let's get it started with meteorologist Brooks Garner and that weekend forecast. Hey, Brooks.
You've got it, Drew. Good morning, guys. We've got a day today featuring summer-like readings, mid-80s after a mild start. We're looking at mostly sunny skies, then a 20% chance for an afternoon storm. But this is really the start of the pattern change that we're going to have for the better part of the next 2 weeks. The sun rising, the Baxton Shanker Skycam Network, 55 at DIA, 54 in Denver, a southwest wind, 86 today, 85 tomorrow, 20% chance for an afternoon storm today, a more likely chance tomorrow at 40%. So if you have any outdoor plans, high country foothills, or even in the plains in the I-25 urban corridor, Denver, do be weather aware. Lightning will be a threat tomorrow afternoon, as well as locally heavy rain. 52 in Greeley right now, 53 in Georgetown. Nothing to show you on radar at this time. Skies are clear. Pinpointing that high of 86 in your hour-by-hour forecast at 2 o'clock, and then cooling down to around 80 by dinner time with that storm chance. But this will be a far cry as far as the feel of the outside air compared to yesterday when we had a very delightful high of 74 degrees. Much hotter today.
All right, if you are driving into downtown Denver from the north side of the metro, watch out for this. A crash just reported on the southbound lanes of I-25. As you're approaching I-70, it is on the left-hand side, and we now have a fire truck that is blocking that left lane. Traffic in general is light, so I'm not seeing a handful of delays because of this, but just something to keep in mind. You're also looking at your drive times on 270 either direction, about 6 to 10 minutes.
What do you think it is, though, to have these rallies and protests?
Terrifying moments and chaos erupting in the streets of downtown Denver. Shots were fired during those protests over the death of George Floyd.
A small group of protesters remained on the streets and in around the state capitol up until just a few hours ago. Fox 31's Jim Hooley, he's live at the Capitol this morning. And Jim, it looks like there's no more protesters left at the scene there.
Yeah, this scene is completely cleared. We're on the south side of the Capitol building right now. No protesters here to speak of at this point in time. Some people coming around looking at the building itself. You can see up here on the south side doors, you can see some graffiti up there that is painted on the south side door, and some of the cleanup underway here. But take a look at some of these images again from overnight. Just a very ugly scene here in downtown Denver all night long. All of it starting at around 5 yesterday afternoon. There was a small crowd gathering right in front of the Capitol at that time, but things really started to escalate when, again, someone fired gunshots in the area. About a half hour later, the crowd panicked, they ran, and they scattered. Then, throughout the next couple of hours, the crowd grew larger. It was more aggressive, marching in and around the streets near the Capitol, throwing rocks and bottles and fireworks at police. At one point, someone started smashing the windows of a state patrol vehicle on the grounds of the Capitol, spraying graffiti on the building, too. Officers used tear gas and rubber bullets to try to disperse the crowd, and disperse them, I should say, and move them out. That was a very, very difficult challenge, though. Things turned extremely dangerous, though, at this point here, when a protester was hit by a car out in front of the Capitol. This video shows a black SUV hitting that protester. He goes down. Then the driver appears to attempt to run over him again. And at that point, the driver takes off. So what an ugly night. Some very, very dangerous situations here all night long. The smell of tear gas is still very obvious here, and the taste of it, too. In fact, it's affected me somewhat this morning already. So tear gas and all the paintballs that were shot here. It's a very, very rugged situation here now in terms of what happened here last night. But cleanup is underway here right now, a very quiet time here right now. And of course, the concern is, will there be more protests here later on today? Lawmakers have canceled their session for today. They will not be here. Obviously, everyone concerned about their own security here now at the state capitol. At the state capitol this morning, I'm Jim Pooley, Fox 31.
You hate to see it. You hate to see it, Jim. Thank you for the update. Well, Governor Polis speaking out on the issues, saying this, quote, exact words here. These are extremely difficult times for our state, country, and world. Now more than ever, we need to lift each other up and do right by each other. I ask everyone to make their voice heard peacefully and turn their anger into advocacy and action, never violence. Denver's Mayor Michael Hancock also weighing in on the issue. He tweeted last night saying, you could be angry, you can be outraged, I certainly am, and I join you in those feelings and demands of justice for George Floyd. March for justice and to see it served, but please march in peace. Responding to violence with violence will only lead to more violence.
Protesters took to the streets in cities across the United States on Thursday in response to a disturbing video showing a Minneapolis police officer pushing his knee into the neck of a black man. That man, George Floyd, later died. The mayor of Minneapolis is calling the killing a murder. 4 officers have been fired. Before protests broke out yesterday, Denver's police chief Paul Pazin said he was in disbelief when he saw the viral video. In a tweet, Denver Mayor Michael Hancock is calling for murder charges for all of the officers involved. Chief Pazin says Denver's use of force policy clearly prohibits the knee-to-neck maneuver.
The Denver community has worked hard to try to prevent these types of situations from happening in our city. This city cares about progressive use of force policies.
And regardless of current DPD policy, Pazin says his department will need to learn from the tragedy in Minneapolis. And Jim Hooley just mentioned this, but due to public demonstrations in the downtown area, the Ralph L. Carr Colorado Judicial Center will be closed to the public and employees until June 1st.
And President Trump says orders for the National Guard service members to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic will be extended at least through mid-August. It comes after a bipartisan push from Colorado senators and congressmen and women and 125 lawmakers across the country. National Guardsmen and women qualify for additional retirement and college tuition benefits for every 90 days they serve in a federal deployment. The orders were set to expire June 24th, which would have been 1 day short of the time required to get those additional benefits.
President Donald Trump signing an executive order that could make it easier to sue social media companies. The order focuses on a law shielding companies like Facebook and Twitter from most lawsuits related to how they police content. The current law allows companies to moderate content in, quote, good faith. President Trump's move comes days after Twitter labeled 2 of his tweets as, quote, potentially misleading.
There's no precedent in American history for so small a number of corporations to control so large a sphere of human interaction. and that includes individual people controlling vast amounts of territory, and we can't allow that to happen.
The executive order will let the Federal Communications Commission change existing regulations. Some legal experts say the move restricts free speech, and they say a legal challenge is likely. And new this morning, a Colorado Republican candidate for Congress replying to Trump's tweet about Twitter targeting Republicans and conservatives. Lauren Babert posting this photo about an hour ago of her with the gun strapped to her leg, saying, quote, "Twitter is and always will be run by radical left Democrats. They are not doing this for business purposes. It is to fight for their ideology. Since they can't debate their ideas, they just censor them, I guess. So sad." Babert is running for the 3rd Congressional District seat, which covers most of the rural western slope and southern portions of Colorado. She is also the owner of Shooter's Grill and Rifle.
The ACLU slapped the governor and the director of the state's prison system with a brand new lawsuit demanding better care for medically vulnerable prisoners. The suit says the state should be doing more to protect at-risk inmates, including releasing some offenders to reduce the spread of COVID-19. More than 560 people got sick with COVID-19 at the Sterling Correctional Facility. 2 people died. Attorneys representing inmates say it's time to get some of them out of prison so they won't get sick.